All right, Chuck. Hello and welcome to today's episode. I'm super excited about the topic that we have lined up, and we will dive into what we call the boiler room insights, things that you see are right now working in 2024, things those are not working, probably used to work in the last year, but not right now not working. Some of the lesser understood areas, the experimentations, those you are running with your team. So should be a good one. And before we dive in, do you want to tell a little bit about you and your present role?
Yeah. Chuck Conners, I've been in sales development now for a little bit under a decade. Like most sales development leaders, they started off in sales development as a rep. And that was myself. I was a rep for almost 3 years. And like most SDRs that start off in the beginning of their career, they want to go into sales of some sort, whether it's a sales director or an account executive. Um, I had those aspirations myself, but I was given the opportunity to be a team lead at a company I was at. And that was entailed with onboarding, training, coaching, all new hires that were coming in. And I knew right then and there, probably after, I'd say 2 weeks, that this was my passion and where I had a ton of fulfillment and I was re energized for sales development. And I decided to take the leadership route. From there, I ended up getting into leadership where I'm now on my third company helping build scale a global SDR teams. I've done that in the past, and now this one is just in the US based. But yeah, I have a deep passion and love for sales development. I think it's only been growing as a piece of every business and software and other companies alike. And it's evolving faster than ever as well.
Super. Okay. So the first question generally we start off with is if you could have a billboard and print one advice for a new SDR, what would that be?
Yeah, great question. Be a student of the game. Be willing to learn everything. Just absolutely engulf yourself in everything when it comes to sales development, sales in general, your product, the industry. So I would say be a student of the game, never stop learning, and get 1% better every day. That would be the billboard. But I think never stop learning is extremely important and trying to get 1% better every single day. A lot of SDRs are early on in their professional career, so they don't have that experience yet. And the best way to get experience is just to dive into what you're doing and not be afraid of failing. Failing is inevitable. It's a prerequisite for success for anybody. I have failed way more than I've been successful tenfold. So I would give that advice to every SDR that's coming into this world. And I give that advice to SDRs that join my team as well. They ask me what makes a great SDR, and that's the exact advice that I give them. So I think I need to put that billboard in my office.
Awesome. All right, let's move on to the next question. So what is your best practice for building quality account list? You can go over your playbook.
Yeah, I think it varies, but at the same time, the principles are the same. You need to know your target market inside and out, and I think that comes with the company that you're joining and the information that they already have on your target market, which they should have as far as just the company sizes that you're going after, the annual revenue, and a number of other factors. But knowing your decision makers that you need to go after as well, whether they are the economic buyer, your champion, or the person that puts the pen to the paper. It's really important to know all that information when you are trying to build a quality account list, as we like to call it, blueprinting. I think it's also important to know their tech stack and what tools they're using, because then you get to know where they're living and how forward thinking they are on certain topics. And that really helps with driving quality conversations when you do build that list and you're reaching out to them. You know that they are forward thinking with technology or whatever your sector of business is. And I also think it's very vital to know if we interacted with them before. There's a number of companies that have a feature that customers are interested in, and they don't have another one. And that's where you typically can lose business. But as most companies do, they grow, they start adding on different products, tools, features, and knowing who we lost in the past due to those reasons can be a really powerful account list or prospecting list when you start adding those products down the road. Number of conversations, I'm sure you've been through it. I know I have been through it, where we have a prospect ask for something, we don't have it yet. It's on the roadmap for the following year. And there's a number of prospects that you can get from that. The most important thing that you can do as a sales development leader or even a sales development rep is just make sure that you're taking diligent notes in your CRM so that you can come back on that information.
So just for context, are you guys focusing more on the mid-market enterprise or to?
Say your question again. Sorry, your phone broke up a little.
Yes. So what I was asking is, are you guys focusing more on mid-market or enterprise or SMB?
SMB currently, but I come from the enterprise space. So this is my first time working in more mom and pop type customers, but we are moving up market towards enterprise as well. I've been in enterprise in the past. That's where I've lived the majority of my career. So it was a little bit of a shift, but the principles as far as sales development and how they target the market stay the same. You still have to do your due diligence. You have to know your target market, all the things that go into quality list building. The same principles apply there. I would just say that our velocity is a little bit quicker than what it's been in the past, but at the same time, the principles stay the same.
Do you guys use any specific tool which is very good for SMBs, like in terms of finding the quality leads?
Yeah, so we partner with a company called Lead Genius. That is super helpful for us. There is also a few websites that list companies that are using SEO or other digital transformation type products that we like to target shops through that. So right now I work for a company called Tekmetric, and we are a shop management system for auto repair shops. And a lot of that market doesn't live on LinkedIn like other traditional markets do. So we have to get super creative to find shops. And for
Can you share one or two? Can you share one or two creative things that you guys are doing? Because this is a common problem we see a lot of time, because people always tend to go to LinkedIn, but a lot of B2B is off LinkedIn. So if you guys have figured out one or two ways.
Yeah, totally. So we've been getting very creative, and I think that is another piece that drives really good SDRs is creativity. One piece that we really look into is what's the weather that day, and people listening to this are probably like, the weather, what does that mean? Shops are typically slower when it's raining or snowing or there's inclement weather happening in that area. So what we like to do is prospect into that area where there is that type of weather happening and targeting those shops because they're less busy. They have less customers coming in at that time. They're more willing to have a conversation and also take a demo. And that has been super powerful for us. It's been
How do you guys figure it out? How do you guys figure it out?
Well, part of it comes from having SDRs that have previously worked in the industry and putting our brains together to figure something out to what do shop owners deal with. But we also we try to take a look at where would it be slow right now in the market. Are we close to a holiday or people on vacation? What might be the case there? But that's only one strategy that we do. We also like to go on repairpal.com, which is shops that are using SEO. And what we like to do from there is take a look at those shops that are using that SEO and then reach out. Basically a cold call, but what we know is that they're forward thinking with digital transformation. They're already applying technology to their shop. there's about 50% of our market that are still on pen and paper, which is pretty amazing and scary at the same time, knowing that your market is still using a pen and a piece of paper to do all their books. But it's also a huge opportunity to push them forward.
You know, these are the nuggets which we want to surface in the conversations, because it's easy to go to LinkedIn and set up your filters. All big B2B companies are there, But how do you crack this for a very niche market, which is not there in SMB, probably using pen and paper, right? And then you have to be creative in terms of custom scaping and building lists and be very sure about it. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, there's another one that's been super helpful for us too. So we work with a lot of non-revenue driven customers as far as schools or tech schools. And in the auto repair industry right now, there is a huge shortage of techs or finding quality techs. So our strategy is to look into that area where there are shops by those schools and to let them know, hey, everybody is learning on Tekmetric at this school. Why don't you hire your techs straight out of this school and have Tekmetric already as your system in place for the shop? Now what that does is it gauges much more interest when a cold call comes in, that there is some serious value build here and not just your typical pitch of a product and asking for a demo.
What sort of campaign structure is working best in 2024 for you guys, considering that you are targeting SMB, like email, cold call, combination of that, LinkedIn, or maybe text?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked this because I think it's underutilized. It's the phone. It's our superpower. It's underrated. I think we've gravitated way too much into just messaging people instead of actually picking up the phone and dialing and having a human-to-human conversation, especially with the rise in AI, robobots, and also just video as well, which I think video is super powerful. But the phone is underrated, especially if you're giving the right coaching and practicing constantly. It can be a superpower for you. And another reason why I say that is because I like to look at the phone as a contact sport and practicing that sport as growing up. I grew up playing multiple sports. If I didn't put time into practice, I knew that it wouldn't yield me any results, or I wouldn't score any baskets or anything whatsoever. So I know that if you put the time in for role plays, coaching sessions, listening to calls, the phone is super powerful. A big piece of that is just being able to handle objections. The pitch will be consistent, but being able to handle objections and answer their problems confidently, that's a superpower for an SDR.
How many touch points you have in a campaign? Is it like 2, 3 calls, or how does the campaign look?
Yeah, typically we're around 9 to 12. We have almost a 50% pickup rate with the phones. Another reason why the phone is so important for us. But we like to do 3 to 4 emails, personalized at scale, that focus on different pieces of cold prospecting that we're going after. But we also like to do phone calls for those other touch points. We haven't got into video yet, just because our customer base doesn't live as much in email, but we still like to send emails. People do respond to them. And we're about just about industry average or a little bit above, with a 6%, 7% reply rate right now.
Oh, that's actually very good.
Yeah. And I think a big thing with the emails is don't overcomplicate it. Keep them simplistic to a point of, if you were to pick up your phone or fire up your laptop, you would be able to read this within 5 to 10 seconds and very quickly, and it drives value home. I, as well as yourself, probably get a ton of emails from SDRs, and I read all of them. And a big thing is they overcomplicate it with the amount of information that they're putting in there. Keep it simplistic. Drive home the reason that you're reaching out to me. Let me know that you've done a little bit of personalization with doing some research on me as well. And that will typically yield a response.
Makes complete sense. And do you mind sharing any tool which is very good for you guys to have like on the phone front, like because your connect rate is pretty high. So what tool are you guys using for phone?
So we use a couple different things. We use HubSpot through Dialpad. So we use Dialpad for phone calls with that, but we also invested in Orem last year, which is a power dialer. And that was a monster catalyst for us. With our ICP being pretty similar as far as our outreach, we wanted to increase our velocity for how much touch points that we were reaching out to on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. And that was super helpful for us to gain more traction with the cold prospects that we have that we've partnered with Lead Genius. So there wasn't a buildup. We can put them into the power dialer and really let it go and start booking much more meetings. We were averaging around 1 to 2 meetings per rep last year booked in the beginning of the year. We're around 3 to 4 at this point per day, SDRs booking meetings. So it has really been super helpful for us. I think there's a time and place for a dialer. For example, the last company I worked for was more enterprise focused, and I don't think a dialer was super helpful for us since our prospects that we're reaching out to could be in marketing, and then one could be in social, then one could be in PR. It was very tough to get traction if you were to put that in a power dialer and continue making phone calls. Whereas here, it's much easier for us to do that. So if you have the ability to invest in a power dialer and you see a fit, I highly recommend doing it. Orem has been a great partner for us as well with just making changes and rolling out new features. Can't recommend them more.
Are you guys using Zoom Info for getting the phone numbers?
We're not. So Lead Genius is what we use for that, but we also use just research, getting our hands dirty, going on Google Maps and searching general auto repair shops in the area. I think that is underrated, not just for our market, but other markets too. ChatGPT is also another superpower for us at this point, like a lot of SDR teams. I think there are people that are bullish on it, and then there are people that don't recommend using it for kind of their own reasons. I am a huge advocate of it, and you can go in there and find information as far as asking for phone numbers and company names and zip codes. It will pull that information. So you can gain a lot of insight from using it, not just for personalizing emails or trying to find information on a company, but actual details on contacts. That is something that we're really diving into heavy in 2024.
Awesome. What sort of metrics are you tracking from a team performance standpoint?
Yeah, so phone calls, obviously one, but I like to look at the quality of the phone calls. How many calls were negative? How many calls were neutral? Saying, hey, right now is not a good time, reach out to me in a month. How many calls were positive? And then looking at that information, we can then break down, okay, who needs coaching on improving objection handling or pitching if there's more negatives than positives. So that's one piece of it. I also do like to look at emails as well and how many emails we're sending out. But I don't go as much focusing on a volume play. I look for quality. And quality is, to me, is very much more important than quantity. Somebody can make 200 phone calls, but if they're only yielding 1 meeting from all that, there's something missing there. And that is on myself and the other SDR leaders to coach on that information to improve that. I rather you make 50, 60 phone calls and yield 5, 6, or even more meetings from that, knowing that your quality is there, you're understanding who you're speaking to and how you're breaking through to them. But outside of phone calls, emails, also like to look at prospects being added per day. It's kind of like an engine. If you're not putting the necessary gasoline in for a car to drive, it's going to run out. So you have to continue to replenish your funnel and make sure that you're adding people. We like to add 15 to 20 new prospects in per day. We have a pretty large total addressable market. There's over 200,000 shops out there for us to be going after. So velocity for us and speed is extremely important, with obviously efficiency.
You can go for your preferred tech stack for 2024. And if you can share one or two very underrated tools or any Chrome extension or anything that you found very handy and you're looking forward to using it in 2024.
Yeah, I'm going to surprise you with this answer. And I think I'm going to surprise a lot of people with this answer. It's Slack. There's a lot of remote teams out there. And with that, you want to build a strong communication culture for a winning culture with an SDR team when you are remote. I see too many messages and SDR leaders saying, how do we build communication better? And it's just constantly being in chats with your SDRs, making sure that people are communicating, gamifying what you're doing in a day in, day out basis, celebrating your wins and losses, and also sharing best practices. Especially as a remote team, you're not sitting next to somebody all the time. So you have to get very creative when it comes to meeting with people, role plays, shadow sessions where they are sharing their screen and you're also taking notes at the same time, and just lending hands to one another. So for me, it's Slack. I think Slack is very underrated in that form. And you could also say Microsoft Teams, same principles. But as far as tech stack tools, Power Dialer for us. It's super powerful. I also think that any AI texting type tools that are out there right now, Zapier is one. Another is Sonar. They're super powerful with just going back into your database for people that have already agreed to taking marketing information. So they've already said yes to taking information from sales development, going back and messaging them with dynamic fields and making sure that you're saying, hey, we spoke to you in the past on this date. We had this type of conversation. And then you can personalize that at scale. So that'll be super helpful. I'm also really bullish on AI, like everybody. It's hard not to be at this point. I think last year was, for at least ChatGPT, it wasn't even year one. It was more of year zero, where people were testing it out, trying to see what works, what doesn't work. But now we have some serious information and data behind what it does for us as far as emails, but not just with email writing. I also think it's going to be leveraged on cold calls and also demonstrations. You're already seeing this with Sales Loft. Gong has released a new product called Engage, which has been very, very helpful for SDRs, and that's what we're using. We are using Gong and their suite, and it's been super helpful for us to gain insights that have already been in the database and then have AI leverage that for us to have talking points.
Right, and I'm very curious. I think one of the hot trend in last year was is if there a way to figure out of your entire target market of 40,000, 50,000 companies this month or maybe this quarter, these are the 5,000 companies which are very hot, maybe through some signals or some triggers or something. Are you guys investing in any kind of tool which tells you that probably this is the right time to reach this company? Are you guys thinking about that?
We are. So we're a little bit of a younger company and we're still building out our tech stack and getting more sophisticated with the tools that we're using. But I think the first thing that you have to do before you even get to that point is do lead scoring and making sure that you understand who is more of a buyer than not. And that's where dynamic triggers and other pieces of that nature are coming into play for reaching out to your market. I think Clary is a really good tool for this. That's a little bit more for enterprise focus, but even mid-market, allowing you to understand where people are in their buying journey. But you can even use that from an SDR perspective too, to understand what are those buying signals that they're going after and what they're looking for. Are they coming to our site multiple times? Or is this the first time that they're coming to the website? Or is this the first time that they're interacting with us? Or have they downloaded anything in the past? That's really extremely important for SDRs to leverage that type of information instead of a spray and pray model. Those are the SDRs that win month over month, quarter over quarter, when they know the lowest hanging fruit, where it's sitting within their market. So I think that is an extremely important piece. There are tools that invest in that. Like I said, Clary. I think they're constantly growing, adding new feature sets that are only going to be more powerful, especially with artificial intelligence being rolled out for it. But that's where we're focusing on big time in 2024, is just the dynamic fields and making sure that if a prospect comes to our website, what are we doing from an email standpoint? What are we doing from a phone call standpoint? How are we going to be interacting with them?
Last question. Any trend that you're super bullish, overall sales trend that you're bullish in 2024? I think you spoke about ChatGPT. Is it the one or something else?
You know what? It is ChatGPT, but and AI. But at the same time, I'm very bullish on sales enablement. I think they're getting more sophisticated, and the integrations that they're being able to work with. I think these platforms are very important just from an end-to-end solution standpoint. It's bringing in training better, content management, and just also coaching tools. For me as an SDR leader, I'm always looking to improve the coaching standpoint and what tools that we can be using there. So I would say sales enablement, and not just from a platform standpoint, but I also see it from an agency or consulting background too. There's a lot of companies that underutilize enablement, especially in a sales perspective. And the better you set up your employees, both from an SDR and AE perspective, the more likely they're going to be successful. So double down on the beginning of how you're bringing in employees and enabling them, and it's going to yield much better results as time goes on.
Awesome. Thanks a lot for doing this. This was very insightful. You had very, very crisp and detailed insight. And these are the sort of insights community always value. So hopefully we will be quickly publishing your episode and look forward to seeing people getting value out of it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.